back to the GVSM podcast. No big topic today. No drama, no callouts. This episode is honestly just me being real for a minute. I've been thinking about this a lot lately, especially after the last few episodes. I realized I never really explained why I'm doing this podcast in the first place. Not what it's about, not what I talk about, but why I hit record at all. If you're new here, or if you've been listening since episode 1, this episode kind of explains everything. So yeah, let's get right into it. I think the biggest thing I want to clear up right away is this. This podcast was never about numbers. I'm not chasing clips. I'm not trying to go viral. I'm not trying to be the loudest person in the room. And that might sound stupid in 2026 because everyone is now about growth, engagement, reach, algorithms, and all that. I've been on the internet long enough to know what chasing numbers does to people. I've seen creators completely lose themselves just trying to keep up. They stop enjoying what they're making, they stop sounding like themselves, and everything turns into what will perform better, instead of what do I actually want to say. And I don't want that. I'd rather have 50 people who actually care about what I'm saying than 50,000 click in, watch 10 seconds, and leave. I've been making stuff online for years. Videos, series, stories, and I've had phases where things did well and phases where things didn't. And over time, you start realizing something. The stuff you remember making the most isn't always the stuff that performed the best. It's the stuff where you were actually you. This podcast is the first time in a while where I don't feel boxed in by format. No characters, no scripts that have to hit beats. No worrying about whether something is marketable. It's just me talking, and honestly, kind of refreshing. I see streamers pulling in 20, 30, 50,000 viewers playing the most mind-numbing stuff imaginable. Good for them, genuinely, but that life isn't for me. I don't want to chase trends that I don't care about. I don't want to pretend to enjoy things just because they're hot for 2 weeks. I'm okay growing slowly, like I said before. I'm okay if it takes years. I've always been more interested in building something that lasts than something that explodes and disappears. If it means this podcast grows over 5, 10, even 20 years, I'm fine with that. This is my pace. A lot of what I talk about here isn't stuff I've fully figured out yet. It's kind of the point. This podcast is me thinking out loud, reflecting, processing things. Sometimes that's Roblox. Sometimes it's YouTube. Sometimes it's games, shows, or random thoughts I've been sitting on for years. I don't need to have the perfect take. I just need to be honest. And honestly, that's rare online now. Now, who's this podcast for? Now, who this podcast is for? This podcast isn't for everybody. That's okay. It's for people who like slower conversations, people who don't need constant noise, people who grew up online and are just kind of just tired. If you're listening while driving or late at night or just trying to decompress, that's who this is for. This isn't background noise. It's company. I don't know exactly where this podcast goes long term. Although I do hope to have my friends as co-hosts in the near future as we have seats all around. And maybe guests. But for right now, I just want to say what I want to say before the episodes get longer. We have more people on here. It's chaotic. So we just want to take it slow for right now. Maybe season 2, we will have my friends as co-hosts in the future. So if you're still here, thank you genuinely. And if you're new, welcome. This is what this podcast is. Next episode, we'll get back into the actual topics again, but I needed to say this. Alright, guys. Let's see. One thing I haven't really talked about much is burnout. Not the dramatic kind where you quit everything and disappear, but the quiet kind. The kind where you're still creating, but you're not really present anymore. I hit a point where I realized I was making things out of habit, not passion. And that's a dangerous thing as a creator. You start chasing consistency instead of meaning. Uploading because you feel like you have to, not because you actually want to. This podcast started as a way to slow that down. No deadlines, no pressure, just talking. Long-form content is kind of treated like it's dead now. Everything has to be short, everything has to hook you in 3 seconds, everything has to be loud. But I don't think the long form is dead. I think patience is. And that's why I like podcasting. If you're listening to this, you chose to be here. You weren't tricked by a thumbnail or a sound effect. You stayed. That matters to me. There's this pressure online to have an opinion on everything. Something happens, you're expected to react immediately. Honestly, that's exhausting. This podcast lets me slow that down. I don't need to have a hot take. I don't need to be first. I don't need to scream. I can just talk when I'm ready. And that alone makes this worth doing. This podcast isn't just for listeners. It's also for future me. I like the idea of being able to look back years from now and hear what I was thinking at this point in my life. What mattered to me, what annoyed me, what I cared about. It's like an audio journal, just public. Why I'm okay if this stays small. I want to say this clearly. I'm completely okay if this podcast stays small. Because small doesn't mean meaningless. Some of the best conversations happens in small rooms. I don't need sponsors. I don't need ads. I don't need to turn into something huge. If it grows naturally, cool. If not, that's totally fine too. If you made it this far into the episode, thank you. That actually means something to me. You didn't have to listen this long. You didn't have to care. But you did. And that's exactly why I'm doing this podcast at all. And thank you for watching. And I'm sorry that this episode was pretty short. I can promise this one thing. If by some chance we have my friends on here in season 2, because we are approaching the season finale, the episodes will probably be longer, because if you guys were on stream, like in the past, the streams were like I was like gonna end after an hour. With friends, it ended up being 2 hours, so it can definitely increase the length, and we have more neutral conversations and stuff, and we get their opinions on stuff too. That's what I plan to do in the future. But for right now, I just want to do what I'm doing here, and we will obviously get into weekly episodes, and then if things aren't well on the main channel by the end of 2026, then I will be dropping weekends off my workload. And we will just do the podcast on Saturday. And then so on and so forth. But yeah, guys. That concludes this episode. So thank you all so much for watching. And I will see you guys in the next one.